Uprooted trees, destroyed houses, mangled cars, and docks lifted into the air with broken boats are just some of the terrifying consequences of storms, hurricanes, and tornadoes. Today, we will see what nature is capable of. Despite their malicious intentions, the beginning of a storm can look like a painting worthy of a famous artist. You can't even imagine how this picture will change in just a minute. A mesmerizing sight, a foggy monster extends its tentacles to the ground. These clouds are called shelf clouds and usually precede hurricanes, forming a storm collar. They approach at a furious speed. If you look closely, you can see the outlines of a terrifying monster's face in them. This is what Hurricane Ida looked like in August 2021, the second most intense and destructive after the infamous Katrina. The same Hurricane Ida took down a Ferris wheel in the city. Here, the meaning of the name became clear. It continued to spin and worked like a devil's thresher. Wind speeds during the disaster reached a terrifying 150 miles per hour, and the wheel weighs about 440,000 pounds. Fortunately, there were no passengers on it at that time. When people talk about bad weather, it implies not only rain and wind, but also hail. If the weather is very bad, hail the size of a tennis ball falls. On June 22, 2003 in Nebraska, the largest hail was observed. The ice pieces reached a diameter of up to 7 inches, and there were chunks up to 18.7 inches. They likely stripped all the leaves off the trees. Another dangerous companion of a storm is lightning. No one knows when and where it might strike. In fact, celestial electricity can hit anything. The climate in the United States is prone to frequent tornado attacks, but every time they practically catch people off guard. People who live on powder kegs, near volcanoes, or in tornado-prone areas likely have strong nerves and good insurance for their cars and homes, because at such moments it can easily become movable property. The squall wind sweeps everything around, sparing neither roofs, landscaping, nor large trees. The only question is where you will be at that moment, inside or outside, and what to do with the car if the storm catches you on the road. If you know how to behave, share with us in the comments. March 31st, 2023, in the USA, could be called Tornado Day. Tornado outbreaks swept across the country. Just think, 146 of them occurred in one day. Wind gusts reached nearly 168 miles per hour, which corresponds to the average speed of a race car. But this is not a record. The highest number of tornadoes in a day happened before, in 1974 and 2011. I wonder what America looked like from space then. As we already mentioned, tornadoes move at a frantic speed. And although the sight of an approaching vortex makes us watch it with frozen amazement, the best decision is to immediately rush to shelter. Agree, it's safer to watch the raging elements from a reliable shelter. Then you can work on restoring your property. The main thing is that no one gets hurt. Here's an example of a wrong choice. On April 26, 2024, a tornado tore through the city of Lincoln, Nebraska, and the wind speed reached 265 miles per hour. The hurricane broke trees and hurled cars into the sky. A truly terrifying scene, don't you think? This story can serve as an instruction on what not to do during a natural disaster. These people likely panicked or had no previous experience. They thought shelter under an overpass would be safer than their own car. Just know for the future that staying under bridges in such moments, you are dooming yourself to be in a wind tunnel. It's a miracle that no one was injured. It's bad news if during a storm you find yourself not only under a bridge but also on it. As you know, there's no turning back or making a turn. You can only go with the flow and hope that the squall wind doesn't flip the car. Being on the road during bad weather is a tough test for the driver. The worst part is that the car seems to protect against flying debris but completely limits visibility, turning movement into pure lottery. The main thing is not to end up under trees that might fall on the car. The person filming this shows us the beginning of a tornado outbreak that raged in the southern states of the USA from March 21st to 23, 2022. It all started in Texas, and the filming of this movie takes place in the heart of the tornado. Remember what we said about the bridge? This time a truck experienced the full power of the flow, carrying cars along with debris, and everything ahead sank into complete fog and rain.
Wow! Ooh, it's dying down.
As it turned out, staying in the car is also not entirely safe. This time, the airbags probably worked. One of the most unpleasant moments in hurricanes is the squall wind, which can not only break trees but also uproot them. Yes, it's sad to watch this happening in your yard right before your eyes. It feels like the wind treated them like weeds.
Oh, our tree's gone! We lost 2 trees! Well, our front yard is gone.
The owner's pain will also cost a pretty penny for restoration work. I wonder if putting the tree back will make it grow again.
Oh, damn, I love those trees.
And of course, the last place you'd want to be during a hurricane is in a car on a road where trees are falling. A falling tree can collapse on you at any moment, and if the movement is blocked by cars ahead, there's no chance for maneuver. Here's another story. On March 5th, 2018, in Portugal, wind gusts at 112 miles per hour not only mercilessly uprooted trees but hurled them across areas, causing devastating damage to everything in their path. Fortunately, the light poles stood firm. If century-old trees fall, they can't be put back. It remains to saw and remove them, leaving unharmonious voids in the cozy alley. The only joy is that the wind direction dropped them towards the park and not on the paths and parked cars. And now a selection from the roof-blowing series, Metal Sheets Fly Like Rappers. We see a hurricane in the Netherlands. Not only residential buildings, but larger structures like schools, hospitals, and stadiums were unprepared for the wild wind. Although they seem light in appearance, being nearby an open space is extremely dangerous. A flying metal sheet is essentially a razor blade. Remember this and don't dawdle in bad weather. Look for shelter.
Ja, het was het dak, ligt nu op de berg.
Dat is het dak.
Oh, kijk, daar gaat weer. Oh, wat erg.
Oh, gelukkig gaat de wind die kant op.
Oh, niet normaal.
It feels like the storm's goal is to perform a general cleanup of the area. It seems to aim to level your property with the ground. All the owner can do is helplessly watch as his property literally falls apart. Here are a few shots from Ohio, where several homes were destroyed during a storm on May 7th, 2024.
Oh, man!
The largest and most destructive in history are wedge tornadoes. They got this nickname in the unofficial jargon of storm watchers, and it refers to tornadoes that look wider than the distance from the ground to the base of the surrounding clouds. They can span 0.5 miles or even more in width. This type of tornado is what we see in this story. It struck the small town of Mind in Iowa on April 27, 2024. Just look at the scale. The eyewitness watches the flying large chunks with horror and fears that the nearest neighborhood will now turn into them too.
Oh no. Oh no. Oh, it's going behind it.
Fortunately, it bypassed these farms, ended up behind them. Nevertheless, the natural disaster destroyed 180 homes. About 600 people were left homeless, not to mention the damage caused to businesses. Tornadoes in America are like a default option, and it's simply amazing how people coexist with the elements that regularly hit one area or another. Meteorologists can predict a storm in general, but not the moment when the elements will cover the city entirely, making movement impossible. Here's proof from Canada. The sky seems bright, but within seconds, the scenario changes dramatically to an apocalyptic film. Observing this is both incredibly scary and fascinatingly interesting. I'm just worried about that driver who didn't manage to find shelter. We don't see the end of the story. Our eyewitness also wisely hid in an apartment. If clouds look like colored cotton candy, bad news, a dust storm is approaching. It often looks like the beginning of the apocalypse. A powerful dust storm in Arizona once left 10,000 people without electricity, which also led to flight delays. Have you seen anything like this in your life? Yes, of course. It's not a tornado, a dust storm won't turn us upside down, but when the wind blows madly, visibility disappears, and the storm stretches for 50 miles. I wouldn't know what to do either. For a driver, the main thing is visibility on the road and a working car. When the road becomes slippery, it turns into an ice rink and a truck becomes a cow on skates. Visibility in a blizzard drops almost to zero, and all you can do is rely on your driving skills. Well, and hope that other drivers will also be careful.
That's so scary.
Canadians are no strangers to situations when a blizzard, wind, and ice play on the same team. Just imagine how a truck driver literally fights the elements. During a winter storm in Alberta, the Trans-Canada Highway became a real challenge for any driver. The road was icy, and the wind was so strong that it blew small cars off the highway, and they stayed off-road for hours. It looks like a whole cemetery of cars accumulated in the ditch. No one can argue. This is really scary. All right, a truck, but I can't imagine a cruise liner anchored being blown away by the wind like a plastic cup. On January 21st, 2020, the MS Nordliner arrived at a border port in Norway. Docking was supposed to go smoothly, but nature decided otherwise. Imagine if the wind parks a ship weighing tens of thousands of tons. What will happen to tiny boats? They will be swept away like papers from a table. Let's see how a waterspout treats boats. In a video shot in Ohio, wind gusts form a waterspout. The wind that day reached 80 miles per hour. It easily scattered equipment on land and began sucking boats from the dock into the vortex. I think it took time to set everything in order. This is not a New Year's firework, but a tornado deciding to walk along the power line. Tornadoes can not only cause serious property damage, but also leave the whole city without power. At the beginning of January 2024, a tornado suddenly hit a residential area in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Eyewitnesses observed the eerie sight from a high-rise window. Green flashes indicate electrical shorts in its path. And the maximum wind speed that day reached 80 miles per hour. Ripping down wires was not enough, and it switched to the dock, where it started smashing and overturning boats. The water foamed instantly. I think being in a high-rise building at that moment was the safest. Thank you for this video, guys.
Oh my God, this is so scary to watch. This is literally my worst fear.
I'm so happy it's going away. Oh, just flip that boat over!
Oh my God.
Oh, it's gonna run right through this freaking main drag while it's coming. It flipped that. I think that boat righted itself. That boat was upside down.
Antarctica is considered the only place on Earth where there are no tornadoes, but the icy continent is recognized as the windiest on the planet. Gusts can reach 200 miles per hour. That's racing speed. Combine this with an average temperature of minus 40 degrees Fahrenheit and icy needles that the wind throws at your face, and here's the picture of a storm in Antarctica. The air turns into icy sandpaper. Expedition members have to show extra heroism. All we can do is admire people who have dedicated their lives to such work. And what if they get buried in snow up to their ears? Cyclones often sweep around Antarctica. No wonder planes don't fly over the continent. Landing here is almost impossible due to the strong squall wind. You will see this in the next video. This isn't even the South Pole. The footage was taken at an airport in the Netherlands. Just imagine the force of the airflow that prevented a massive machine weighing several tons from landing. The plane went for a go-around. In fact, the practice of a missed approach is standard in aviation and is denoted by the command toga. Takeoff/go-around. Never seen such a heavy machine tossed around by the wind like a butterfly? And while watching this, my palms got sweaty with anxiety. The Drake Passage is the widest and deepest passage on Earth. Its width in the narrowest part reaches 510 miles, and the depth is hopeless, up to 16,000 feet. It connects the southern parts of the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans, and is considered one of the most difficult navigation routes. Also, it's the stormiest place on the planet, and because of the icebergs, it's called the Sea Everest. To the north of the passage is the archipelago of Tierra del Fuego and the legendary Cape Horn, and on the opposite side lies Antarctica. Here, mad winds and the world's strongest ocean currents, including the powerful Antarctic Circumpolar Current. Historically, the passage gained a notorious reputation as the graveyard of many ships that attempted to pass it against the current, since the times of Magellan until the opening of the Panama Canal. Safe navigation here is available only to cargo giants. Panamax tankers and container ships, military cruisers and aircraft carriers, and also submarines. Have you ever felt the roar of the wind over waves several feet high? And people have to endure all this nightmare for over 500 miles. Always check the weather forecast before heading out to open sea. That's all for today. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave a few comments to help us grow. This was the Eternity Lab channel, the laboratory of eternally relevant content.